Good evening. We'll begin the Monday, August 5th, 2019 meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners. And as usual, we'll begin with our invocation, and Commissioner Frank Akmus, if you'll lead us in that, please, sir.
Lord, we come tonight to give thanks for this country that we live in and for this county that we live in, that we can gather here tonight. Lord, as we sit here tonight, we want to lift up the families and the communities that were impacted in the tragic events that happened in Ohio and Texas over the weekend. Lord, we pray for comfort for those affected. We pray, Lord, that you will lead, guide, and direct all of our actions tonight, that they may be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Join me for the pledge if you care to.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we'll begin with a public hearing on the development ordinance text amendments. Dick, and I need to point out that we've got a little change, is that speakers, well, we don't have anyone signed up right now, but we'll address the board from the lectern. They will be asked to begin their remarks giving their name, stating whether they're residents of Union County, and indicating the municipality within which they reside. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and that's kind of a change. 3 minutes to make their remarks, provided that the limitation shall not apply to staff or staff representative, nor apply to applicants for rezoning permits, as further below. Speaker may not yield his or her time to another speaker. Speakers shall limit their remarks to those addressing the subject of the public hearing. Speakers may leave written comments and supporting documentation, if any, with the clerk. And Dick, you want to take us through the text amendments, please, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got 3 text amendments. They're pretty straightforward text amendments. The reasons for these revisions is the first one, setback measurements. Y'all have seen that before. It was back in 2018. The county was amending the ordinance to eliminate mandatory right-of-way dedication and to clarify setback measurements. Unfortunately, the language in that UDO for setbacks mistakenly amended the measurement of 30 feet from the right-of-way line when it should have said 30 feet from the center line if the right-of-way is not known. So we're correcting that one. The second amendment is reflecting changes in the county's leadership structure, which was established back in February. That new structure eliminated some positions, changed the title of other positions, and changed divisions to departments. The text amendment here is to reflect that change so that the terminology used in the structure is the same terminology that's used in the UDO. And finally, the third text amendment, successive applications for rezoning and special use permits. The revised text amendment is to clarify the conditions under which a denied or withdrawn application may be reheard, and to establish the same conditions for rehearing a rezoning application and a special use application. Setback measurements. Setback measurements are measured from the reference lot line to the closest point of a building or structure. Street setbacks are measured from the right-of-way line that abuts the street. If the street right-of-way line can be determined by a recorded map or iron sets or some other means, the street setback is measured from the right-of-way line. If the street setback is not determined, the street setback is measured starting 30 feet from the center line. So you can see in this text amendment, basically you see where we had the street, the 30 feet starting at the right-of-way line when it should have been 30 feet starting from the center line. And so that text amendment corrects that mistake that we made back last year. The UDO to reflect the county's leadership. The new reporting structure was established in February. It eliminated the executive director position, changed position title from planning division director to planning director, changed planning division to planning department. This amendment just simply reflects those changes, and it aligns that terminology with the terminology that's in the UDO. And finally, successive applications. Here we're trying to clarify the conditions under which a denied or withdrawn application may be reheard, to establish the same conditions for a rezoning application and for a special use application. Right now, the changes to be considered are somewhat subjective or ambiguous in that is it a change in the application? Is it a change in the property itself? Is it a change in around the property? Is it new evidence that wasn't available at that time? We're trying to establish the same conditions for both applications, and that condition is 12 months must pass from the date of denial or the withdrawal. And this relieves the Board of Commissioners in rezonings and the Board of Adjustment for special use from determining what those subjective changes are. With the rezoning, you can see that first line is unless the Board of Commissioners finds there are some substantial changes in conditions or circumstances bearing on the application. We're taking that out, and it's merely that the administrator cannot accept the application until 12 months have passed. There's been one addition. You'll notice number 3 at the bottom, that time limitation imposed by this section does not apply to a zoning map amendment initiated by the Board of Commissioners. And finally, for special use permits, it's the same thing, that administrator may not accept an application for the same or similar uses for 12 months following the denial of withdrawal. And you can see some of the language we took out is that it asks for an affidavit setting evidence that significant physical, economical, land use changes have taken place, new discovered evidence. And it's just to simplify that. And then we also added that it does not apply to the Board of Commissioners' initiation of a special use permit. Those are our recommended text amendments.
Any questions? Commissioner Rushing.
The 12 months, okay, right now, if somebody is denied, they can come back 12 months from the application date or 12 months from the denial date?
Well, if it's denied, it's from the denial date. If they withdraw it, it's from the withdrawal date.
Okay, so whatever date that they end the process, so it doesn't start the time that they applied.
No,
They
sir.
can't even start the process until after the 12 months.
Right.
Okay, and that's not in the changes, that's the way it is now.
Well, the way it is now is someone could come in and say for a rezoning, the board, the commissioners would have to decide that the way the language reads now, they would have to decide if substantial changes in conditions or circumstances bearing on the application. So right now, someone could come back, if y'all denied one, and it was less than 12 months, but y'all determined that, well, there's been tremendous change out there, y'all could agree to rehear it. The question is, what are the conditions that you consider?
I think the question was, what is substantial?
Mm-hmm.
So this would just nail it down that it would have to be the 12 months.
Yes, sir.
Without any special treatment from the board.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
I would, since there's no opposition, if the board so considers, if they would maybe decide to take action on these amendments tonight, if that's possible.
Okay.
I will make the motion to accept these text amendments
Oh, we need to do
as
that.
presented.
Add it to the
We'll change
agenda.
that to agenda, change our agenda.
Okay. Mr. Crook?
You're adding this to the agenda, assuming there's no opposition after the public hearing is concluded.
Yep. And we have no one signed up to speak on the text amendments. Is there someone that failed to sign? We'll give you that opportunity. If none, I will close the public hearing on the text amendments. Our next item is conduct a public hearing on CZ 2019-006, Popland Meadows, Phase 2. We'll conduct a public hearing. The 3-minute rule that I read earlier applies to all public hearings. Okay? Lee, are you going to help us with this?
Again, as you stated, this is case number CZ 2019-006, Poplar Meadows Phase 2. This is a copy of the site plan that was submitted in support of the application. You'll see here that the means of access from this development is from a stub street. This is approved as part of Poplar Meadows Phase 1. This came to the board maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago. I don't recall the exact date, but this was approved by the board. I think development's underway on that site. This is really an extension of that existing neighborhood. You can see here, it's 70 units. Their connections from Phase 1, and the total density is 5.98 dwelling units per acre. I do want to point out that in conversations with staff, we did ask that there include a parking lot in the development for visitors, for overflow parking, people that may come to see those folks, so we can sort of cut down on some of the on-street parking that may occur. These are some photos taken from the site. This is, now it's called Bonterra Village Way. This used to be called Poplin Road. So this is looking at the site really toward the bypass. So the bypass is just kind of around this curve. This doesn't connect directly with the bypass, but bypass is this direction. The photo on the top right is looking up, this is Bonterra Village Way, looking toward the intersection of Poplin Road. If you would turn left at that intersection, you would pretty quickly hit Bonterra Village subdivision. This is standing in the street looking across. So this is the looking across the street from the site. And the bottom right is looking into, that is the property itself. Again, this is the municipalities that are in a general area. So as you can see, the white is the unincorporated portion of Union County, and the green is the town of Indian Trail. So you can see it's a good bit of the town of Indian Trail that is in close proximity to this property. The current land use in that area, as you can see kind of back behind it, that's Phase 2 of Bonterra Village, fairly dense subdivision that backs up to this property. Everything else in this general area is fairly low density that you can see. As you continue down Poplin Road, there are some other subdivisions down that way. But in the immediate area in front of Bonterra Village where this is, it's fairly low density. And again, this property that I'm kind of circling on right now has been approved for a townhome development. That was the subject of a rezoning that I spoke of earlier. Zoning in the area, again, this is Indian Trail. This is their SF5 zoning district. And Union County, this is the townhome development. It was zoned R4. That's what this piece of property is also petitioned as. Everything else in the immediate area is R40 or RA40 or SF1 in Indian Trail, which is kind of the equivalent of an RA40 zoning district. There is some commercial down closer to the intersection of Secret Shortcut and Poplin Road. I'm sorry, Secret Shortcut and Unionville Indian Trail Road. There's some commercial zoning down there. There's not anything that's there right now as far as commercial development. There's some commercial zoning in place. Most of the properties in this area are served by Union County Water and Sewer. Some of the larger parcels are still served by well and septic though. This project is proposed to be served by Union County Public Water and Sewer. Water and Sewer, these are Union County Public Works' comments. Water and Sewer can be extended to serve this site from Phase 1, provided that capacity exists. Sewer that would serve this site does drain to the Poplin Road pump station, and they did point out again that it has very limited capacity in the pump station. They pointed out that while there is capacity currently available at the pump station, at the time if the rezoning was approved and plans were submitted, capacity would have to be reevaluated at that point. This site has been zoned RA40 since Union County established zoning in 1978. There have been no rezoning requests or special use permits requested for this property. On this piece, no major environmental features. Phase one, there was a stream, or is a stream, kind of on that south property line, but this piece of property, there's no major environmental features to speak of. There's a 2019 traffic count along Bonterra Village Way of 1,300 vehicle trips, so that is fairly recent. And another 2019 count along Poplin Road, and that came in at 5,000. Bonterra Village Way is in the long-term plans a 2-lane road with paved shoulders. I'll give you kind of go over schools comments really quickly here. This development would go to Poplin Elementary School and Porter Ridge High School and Porter Ridge Middle School. Schools pointed out that Poplin Elementary is projected to be 90% of rated capacity this month. Porter Ridge Middle is projected to be 89% of rated capacity, and Porter Ridge High School is projected to be 92% of capacity. They also wanted to point out that by our accounting, this is the schools, by schools accounting, the number of planned and not built housing units in the Poplin Elementary School area are approximately 2,900. It says 2,900 housing units. And then they list off the different developments. You have Bonterra, Southgate, so these are unbuilt portions of Bonterra Village. Bonterra, Southgate, Secret Shortcut, Brayburn, Poplin Road Project, and Poplin Road Property. Those are two separate, one's in Indian Trail, one was in the county that was turned down. And then for the Porter Ridge attendance area, the number of planned and unbuilt units is approximately 4,850. They pointed out that those developments were Sterling, Idlewild, Willows at Stallings, Old Blair's Mill, Southstone, Courtyards on Lawyers Road, the Webster Tract, Idlewild Development, Oak Springs Road, Crooked Creek Estates, Poplin Grove, Goose Creek Farm, Stratford, and Stallings Brook. And they pointed out that additional residential construction contributes to high enrollments, which in turn exacerbate problems such as additional mobile classrooms and adequate capacity for food service and restroom facilities, rationing of access to the media center, insufficient parking and queuing space for parents to safely deliver or pick up their children, and inadequate planning and meeting space for additional staff. The current Union County Comprehensive Plan shows this area as mixed residential. As you can see, as you move a little bit south from there at the intersection of Secret Shortcut and Unionville Indian Trail Road, there is an interchange to the Monroe Expressway there. That area is identified as a neighborhood center, which is an area of denser commercial development and could support some higher density housing units. As you move away from there, again, this is all mixed residential. The mixed residential does anticipate higher density residential patterns with varying housing types such as townhomes, patio homes, and apartments. Since this is inside that mixed residential category, townhome projects with higher densities are anticipated. We also have a small area plan that was adopted not too long ago. This is the Secret Shortcut small area plan. So it basically took the comprehensive plan and further refined what some of that meant. This property lies in the area designated as medium density residential. Medium density category anticipates an average of about 3 dwelling units per acre across the entire medium density category. So not just each particular property, but across the entire category of that medium density residential pattern. So in areas that are closer to activity centers, your density might be higher. As you move away from that toward the rural areas as defined on the plan, your densities would fall below 3 units per acre. So this falls in probably one of those higher areas. And we like to put this map in here just so you can see these are the properties that were sent notice of the community meeting, the planning board, and this meeting tonight. The planning board voted 4-3 to make a recommendation to approve the rezoning request. The board noted that the development was an extension of the already approved Poplar Meadows development, and that the lessening of density as you step down from the one that's approved now to this one was appropriate. The board also noted that they felt that this was a good use of the property. The dissenting members noted that they felt that the density of the development was too high. It would negatively impact the schools and would negatively impact the transportation network. Our comments are, the comprehensive plan designates this area as mixed residential, and that plan does anticipate higher densities. The secret shortcut area plan refines that higher density to approximately, 3 units per acre across the entire category covering the area. Staff feels that the density of the project, while higher than 3 units per acre, even it's appropriate because it's closer to those activity centers, is a good transition for the higher densities anticipated near the interchange. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have pictures of what they're planning on build? Seems like in the package you had a sideways picture that was difficult to see.
This one?
No, this actual picture of what they're planning, the townhomes were
Oh.
supposed to look like.
Yes, sir. It's not here because it's in my pocket. Okay. So this was going to be a mix, I believe, of 2-story and 1-story units. These are some of the 2-story units. These look very similar to what's in what was approved as part of Phase 1. You can see another elevation shot of that. And then those are the 1-story units. So they're trying to step that, not only the density down, but they're stepping down the height as you move away too.
What's the proportion of the two? Of the total?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would rely on the developer to answer that.
Okay. Commissioner Rushing?
The purpose of the 1-story, is that to target age, is this, any part of this age targeted, or?
My understanding from conversations with the developer, it is age targeted. It's not age restricted.
Right, so
but
it's
that
not
is
deed
the-
restricted, it's just
Correct.
targeting.
Yes, but that is the purpose of the 1-story units.
How many of those?
I would have to rely on the developer to give that breakdown.
Any other questions? Is the developer going to speak to us this evening?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate your time. I'm Michael Theberg, with Bowler Engineering, representing the developer. I'm in Mint Hill, 6720 Hollow Oak Drive. And Gene Vaughn is here with me as well, with the developer. I don't know his address, but he,
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, Gene Vaughn, Monroe, North Carolina. I'm here representing the Moser Group.
jump right in here. So here's a color version of that site plan, just for a little bit of added clarity. Like Lee had mentioned, we've worked with staff to provide this visitor parking lot. All townhomes in the development would be 2-car garage, both 2 cars in the driveway and 2 cars in the home itself, which is 4 cars per unit. Phase 1, just for reference, was only 1 car in the driveway, 1 car in the home. So we're trying to, continue to enhance the community as we're moving into this next phase. Dive into a few specifics, and happy to answer questions as I kind of go through this. This is what Lee covered. This is where Phase 1 is, 9 units an acre that's approved and under construction. Here's Phase 2, that's 70 units, 6 units an acre. And then Phase 3, which is a separate application that's on the agenda tonight, is 99 units, but 4.5 units per acre. It's about twice the land area as Phase 1 or Phase 2, 10 to 11 acres versus 22 acres. Just a little bit of context, Ariel, there. We already covered that, really. Just the numbers again, 70 units, 6 units an acre is the rounded number. Of stormwater facilities at the front and the back, which is where the water goes today. Trying to create some tree-safe natural areas here, along with some wetlands in the back of the site, just to preserve nature, enhance the value of the community for the homeowners. And this is just an overall context of all 3 sites together. So just going back one of the questions I heard was the number of each unit type. And so both the units, both the 1-story unit and the 2-story unit will all be offered with a master down option. Again, this is being advertised as a senior age-targeted neighborhood, and so that every unit type will have a master down floor plan. So whether it's 2-story or 1-story, it's still an age-friendly home. And there's a lot of features that go into that I'll get into in a little bit more detail here in a moment. I have a slide. Similar to phase 1, we have a berm proposed in the back here just to help to respect the privacy of neighbors. It's basically just a continuation of what was already approved with that first phase. We worked with staff also and provided some sidewalk connectivity out from Bonterra Village Way into the neighborhood, and worked with DOT extensively on the roads in the neighborhood and fire and EMS, and I'll get on to that in a minute as well. Any just high-level questions so far before I kept going?
Commissioner.
You were saying that how many vehicles per home?
4, 2 in the driveway and 2 in the garage.
And are we asking them to do a parking lot too? So 4 cars per home and a parking lot?
Just in case you have visitors.
Do what?
Just in case there's visitors. These were designed as local streets, whereas you'll see in phase 3, that was designed as a collector street. Phase 1 was a local street. We really wanted to do collector on this, but it didn't make sense since it's connected through phase 1, so you're not gonna go locals into a collector street. So these are a little bit narrower street, cross-section. So we wanted to be able to provide that overflow parking for visitors just in case. We didn't want visitors to have to park on the street if there was an emergency and a fire truck had to get down there.
So if they're age targeted, you're probably not gonna have a young family with 2 kids with 2 cars, and so 4 cars. I mean, I'm just thinking about all the cars, how that makes sense.
It's certainly, I think, more than enough given the neighborhood. I mean, certainly visitors, they're probably, the homeowners themselves are probably at most going to have 2 cars. And, but there's always the possibility that, that's a necessary thing to have that just for
Okay.
overflow.
Could you not just say no parking on the streets?
That is something that these will be on CDOT streets, and that's something that we're doing as part of that understanding to make them local streets. Is no parking, and the neighborhood will also be responsible for monitoring. The HOA will be responsible for monitoring that and enforcing towing as needed.
I know when I'm old, I ain't gonna want any visitors. I just want to leave that alone.
Mr. Rushing, staff also, when we were having these discussions, indicated the placement adjacent to phase 1 might give some availability for phase 1 occupants to be able to have some overflow parking in conjunction with where their location was.
Is that the parking lot I see
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah.
down there?
Yeah, and it is pretty conveniently located to these folks, or as close as we can get it anyway.
Right.
One of the concerns in some adjoining neighborhoods is the ability for a fire truck to go down the street and turn around.
Sure.
Is this roundabout or thing at the end, is that sufficient for a fire truck to be able to navigate that?
Yes, sir. We spoke with John Williams with the Fire Marshal's Office, and these are NCDOT standard turnarounds, so those are approved by them for their turnaround needs. I confirmed that with them. And similarly, and it's a good time as any to bring up also spoke with Brian Edwards with the EMS about the neighborhood and that it be age targeted and senior age targeted, and just did they have any concerns? And I spoke with him on Friday and provided some of that correspondence to Lee that they really would just treat this as a standard neighborhood that they'd expect some slightly higher call volumes from. They spoke with fire about it as well. They saw no real concerns or issues from either department there. And they also had We also had a conversation about access needs, both to the front and the back of the house. Their standard, operating procedure for access if there's an emergency in the rear of the home is that they would bring the stretcher to the patient and stabilize them as needed and then bring them to the ambulance. They really rarely, if ever, saw the need to bring the ambulance behind the homes, and that was, in their opinion, this is similar to any other neighborhood, and they were fine with how this was set up for emergency access.
Okay.
Let me go through a few here. So just a couple quick numbers. Again, 70 senior age targeted units. We would, of course, obtain all necessary permits to construct, assuming the rezoning was successful. The building's widths in this phase were either 26-foot wide, kind of in the center units of those elevations, or 30-foot wide units at the end. Some of those are the two-story ones. The taller, or the shorter units, excuse me, the one-story units would probably be all 30-foot wide units, just because that was the style. And then as we go into the next phase, there's a bigger version of that same one-story product that they were proposing to build there. So they were just trying to make sure it was a good mix of different opportunities and that they weren't all just doing one product type, just to make sure it sold well and make sure that it was a good-looking neighborhood. The access from NCDOT, again, phase 1 down here proposed a left turn lane into the site that's under construction. We worked with DOT and the fire marshal, and they weren't asking for a second access point. They were actually, DOT was asking us to get rid of this access point. We originally had one shown here, and they'd rather centralize the access from DOT's standpoint versus having a lot of different movements along here. So that's kind of how we ended up with using this access to get into here and using this access to get into here. And then just a couple other things we kind of already talked about. The local standard street is what we're proposing here, and we're gonna as the HOA monitor and enforce that parking. No parking on that street, just to make sure there's good emergency vehicle access, and we have that parking lot. So a few other quick things. Lee went over most of this. I'll just be brief, but again, being senior age targeted, I'll go forward a couple. There's really no impact on the school system. Just the way this neighborhood will be advertised, the types of folks that would be living here. There's always the outside potential. Maybe there's somebody in high school occasionally. Somebody's moving in that 55 range, but in general, I mean, you're not going to have a lot of school-age kids. The amenities proposed really aren't set up for that. The home floor plans being mastered down really aren't set up for that. It's the advertisement for that neighborhood and how they want to present it will more or less mean there's little to no impact on the school system. Just going back a few. I think Lee already really touched on all these other items with the berm and the density transition, really just trying to look at the whole area and seeing that, Bonterra Village is, in this area, Bonterra Village is about 7 units an acre. In some townhome areas, it's almost 9 units an acre. And in our area, in phase 1, we're proposing about 9 units an acre similarly. This phase compared to phase 1, it's about the same land area, just a couple of tenths of an acre different, but we're increasing the open space to about 42% of the site, just in lawns and grass and pond areas, which is 3 times kind of the same similar open space right behind us in Bonterra. So we're really trying to promote a very open site. I know the 6 units per acre is considerably less than what's right next to us. Wanted to get into the features of the home that really make it age targeted and what sets us apart from a traditional development. There's a lot of need in the area for parents moving into the area to be closer to their kids or their grandkids, and that's really the goal of the project, is to provide that ability to live near children and age in place. There's a list here of various things that are meant to be age-targeted, friendly versus a traditional home. Different wider doors, limiting trip potential at garage doors and front doors, different height, higher vanities, higher wall fixtures, walk-in showers. I won't hit on every single one here, but, just as a point, this is something that we're working with the builder on to try to present as a, this is the why behind this is an age-targeted community versus just simply just saying that it is. And Gene, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that at all, or?
Well, more than anything else, you may know that this is the first year ever in Union County where the age of individuals 65 and older exceeded those that were 18 and younger. And what we have tried to do as a developer is locate these types of communities, transitional communities, I would say they would be closer to population centers where, just like Michael alluded to, folks can bring in family from other areas, bring them closer to them, have them enjoy children and grandchildren. And then, more importantly, on the bottom of this slide is the ability that the individual, regardless of their inabilities, can have the builder adjust their home to suit their particular needs, whether that is a lowered shower for handicap access, handicap rails, extended turn radiuses in bathrooms, those kind of things.
And then I did want to we wanted to put some information together on a typical age-targeted community that a lot of different national builders are kind of setting as features versus age-restricted, typical age-restricted community. I won't hit everything on here, but, age-restricted neighborhoods in general are considerably larger in size. They're often between 500 and 600 lots, or units. A lot of that is to be able to support some of the amenities that those types of developments provide, which are often very large, amenity centers with pools and fitness centers and a lot of organized activities that are, you're really choosing that lifestyle. I mean, that's a choice, and that's a good choice for some folks, and that works great. There are some considerable fees that go into that in terms of both monthly fees and initiation fees into the HOA. A lot of, age-targeted communities, the people that want to choose that lifestyle are looking for something maybe a little bit more passive. Fire pits, gazebos, pickleball, dog park, things of that nature, much more low-intensity maintenance operations where, you can still have a maintenance-free home and a maintenance-free lawn, but, the fees are, half or less than some of these other typical age-restricted communities. And again, it just comes down to the buyer's choice, and wanting to give them that choice is one of the reasons why we're here with the proposal.
Yeah, I will offer one final comment. I have found in senior living that the last thing you would ever do is take keys away from a 75 or 85-year-old man. It's the last bastion of independence that they have. And we get asked questions about if these are true seniors, do they climb up and down steps and stairways? And the answer, I think, correlates to the example I gave you earlier, and that is every couple, every grandparent wants to have the opportunity to invite their families and have them stay in their home with them. I know one of my sons is married, and I miss those days when all the kids are around, and I think this 1.5-story extra space is not necessarily that the senior's going to be migrating up and down the steps as much as it is they just have the opportunity to invite family back home and have them enjoy the life experience once again with them. We thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, yeah. And just real quick, here's the elevations. Were there any other questions on either home product or any other questions about the neighborhood or anything at all?
Brian?
Could you answer the question of how many units are one story versus how many units are 2 stories?
I don't know that I have a direct answer for that. I think it's probably to be determined partly by the market. And if there were no other board comments or there were no other concerns from the public, we would ask there be consideration of a vote tonight. And I, again, appreciate your time and hearing us on this.
Okay, next we have, is it Michael Everett signed up? So,
Good evening, I'm Michael Everett. I live in Indian Trail, actually Bonterra Village right behind this. I'm the HOA Board President. With this going in, I know in March, it was turned down for the Poplin construction just because of the utilities, couldn't be handled the excess sewer and the water by demand. By the time Bonterra Village is done by next year, Taylor Morrison will be done with Phase 4. That'll be 862 homes just in Bonterra Village itself. And with Mattamy Homes building Brayburn right behind us in our old phases, that's going to be another 300 homes. And my understanding is farther down Bonterra Village Way, I know it's out for rezoning right now, is for the other senior community to be built down there. And our concern, well, my concern and our residents' concern is the strain on the utilities there because it's not there. The infrastructure to support more buildings just isn't there. And until that happens, I would graciously ask that it might be reconsidered to approve this project, because this is going to back right up against Saratoga Boulevard. So I know that's going to be coming my way at HOA board meetings in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. No other speakers. We'll close the public hearing on CZ 2019-006. Next, we will conduct a public hearing on CZ 2019-007, Newtown Ross property. Lee?
Again, this is case CZ 2019-007, Newtown Road, Ross property. I apologize for it saying old up there. That shouldn't be there. This is a site plan for the property. Property is currently zoned RA40. They're requesting R4 conditional. This is a proposed 95 unit development, single-family home development. Does consist of a good deal of common open space. Access will come from one point off of Newtown Road. There is a planned stub street on the north side of this property, kind of on the east side of this property. And the overall density is 2.9 units per acre. Since it is a conditional request, the district is bound by all the conceptual plans and conditions if it were approved. Again, these are some photographs of the property. This is the driveway going into the site off of Newtown Road. So this is looking down Newtown Road toward the intersection of Potter. So that's the church. I think that's Oak Grove Baptist Church on the left. This is looking the opposite direction, heading back toward Monroe. This is looking into the site. So part of the site's an open field, part of it's wooded. And this is looking directly across the street. There's a single-family home. Majority of this area is unincorporated Union County. It's to the north. This is Winding Creek subdivision. There is a satellite annexation that the town of Wesley Chapel did maybe a few years ago. So that you can see it's not every single house in Winding Creek. It's a few. Current land use pattern in the area. You've got some large lot residential just to the east of this. There's a church at the intersection. You've got some medium density residential at Winding Creek. The majority of everything else in this area is either fairly low density residential or agricultural land. Property is currently zoned RA40. It's 32.8 acres. It's currently used as a single family home. That's this piece that's carved out right here. And the rest of it's wooded and agricultural. Everything else, the Wesley Chapel pieces are zoned RUC, which is a designation that Wesley Chapel puts on for properties that they've annexed that used to be in Union County. This was a smart growth development, so density on this is about 1.25 dwelling units per acre. As you can see, everything else is R40. There's some R20 just to the east as you head back toward the city of Monroe. No major environmental features are on this property. Just to the north, I believe this is Molly Branch. That's a fairly large stream. This is the floodplain area for that stream, so that lies to the north, kind of goes through Winding Creek subdivision. Most of the properties in this area are served by Union County Water and Sewer, meaning the higher density pieces. A lot of these more rural pieces are served by well and septic systems. This project is proposed to be served by Union County Public Water and Sewer. To provide water and sewer to this property, it will require an off-site public line extensions. The nearest water main is located at the intersection of Potter and Newtown, so the developer would be responsible for extending that water line to the site and into the site. And the nearest sewer main is located within the Winding Creek subdivision, so the developer would be responsible for extending sewer to that site. Public Works did not note any capacity issues in this area. This parcel has been zoned RA40 since the county established zoning in 1978. There have been no rezoning requests or special use permits for this property. Couple traffic counts in the general area. There's one just north on Potter Road, just north of Newtown, of 3,600 vehicle trips per day. That's a 2017 number. And there is one to the east, pretty good distance to the east on Newtown Road, 4,700 trips per day, and that's also a 2017 number. And these roads are shown to be 2 lanes with paved shoulder in the future. The schools' comments are as follows. This subdivision will be located in the Parkwood cluster for the 2019-2020 school year. The elementary school will be Western Union. That's projected to be 67% of rated capacity. Parkwood Middle is projected to be 79% of rated capacity, and Parkwood High School is projected to be at 83% of rated capacity. And schools' comments is that this proposed subdivision should not adversely affect enrollments at these schools. The Union County Comprehensive Plan shows this area inside the mixed residential category. This category anticipates higher density residential patterns with varying housing types, such as townhomes, patio homes, apartments, etc. Since this project is inside the mixed residential category, higher density single-family neighborhoods are anticipated. The Planning Board voted 4-2 to recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve the rezoning request. In approving the request, the board noted that the request was consistent with the plan and that the development would not have a negative impact on schools. The dissenting members noted that they thought the proposed development was too dense and would negatively impact the transportation network in the area. Staff's comments are that the rezoning request appears consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. We have had several conversations with the developer, and all of our concerns have been addressed. I'll take any questions.
Is that existing house going to be removed, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We don't have any more current traffic counts?
That's the most recent traffic count the NCDOT had.
They're way underestimated. I live in that area. I live within a half a mile.
Yes, sir.
The traffic counts are just, I think they're understated. I'd like to see more current traffic count. Okay. Any questions? The developer?
Yes, the developer is here.
Now, I failed to mention that you've got a 15-minute time limit under the new.
Okay, is that a
So
new, okay,
just,
that just happened?
You may
Okay.
have to use a little bit before, that was my fault, though.
No problem. We'll keep it brief. I assume I don't need to give my name and address for the record again. Like Lee mentioned, this is a 95, starting, 95 single-family detached traditional neighborhood. There's some examples of the homes at the end of the presentation I'm happy to go over with you and answer any questions as we go along. Similarly to the other presentation, if at the end of the night there are no other objections or questions or concerns from the public, we'd request a vote be made tonight if at all possible for your consideration. Getting into the neighborhood, you know, wanted to try to take advantage of and preserve a lot of the natural trees that are out there as part of the development, kind of created a common green in the center here. Do have the substreet here. We've worked with the fire marshal on this. They've asked us to pull it back to about here just because of what they want to see for the longest dead end length. That was from Kevin over at the fire marshal, but still able to serve this property and be able to, you know, be dedicated to DOT. And then also have another slide where we've reserved a right-of-way up here for future connection to this property at the corner of Potter and Newtown, in part to try to address some of the concerns on the transportation impacts that were mentioned, to try to help, you know, centralize access to this area off the corner. And I'll get to where that is. Again, just a quick overview of the area. You have 84 up here, coming down south down this way towards Waxhaw, in that mixed residential area that was mentioned. Traditional neighborhood school districts are in good shape in this area in terms of capacity. I have some statistics on that at the end here. And again, you know, materials are hardy plank, fiberboard, brick with brick and stone accents, and I have some examples of the building elevations. So this is what we presented to the planning board, and I'll go over 3 key changes. One, it was already a thought on our end, but it wasn't really spoken to, but you know, all the homes would have a minimum 2-car driveway. This area here would have a right-of-way reserved so that, you know, if this developer were to come in, they'd be able to connect into this full movement access. NCDOT is requiring that we put in a left turn lane here. That was their only recommendation as part of their review of the project, which we're going to do, of course. And then the third concern that we addressed with staff is moving the mail kiosks that we have here further into the development about here, just to help get it a little bit further off the road and make sure there's no conflicts with people coming in at the end of the day or what have you. Otherwise, the plan really, that was the only real comments on the plan at the planning board. Here's some of the school data. We have about 60–70% capacity right now, with a trend of up to about 70% in Western Union. Parkwood, you know, increasing, you know, 10% about in the next 8 or 9 years, but still within capacity. And Parkwood almost maybe dropping in the next 10 years. So that was one of the things discussed with the school district. It was a good location for more development because it was an area where, you know, schools were not necessarily increasing in their count. They were almost decreasing in some cases. Here's a few different homes. This one's got some stone, you know, column accents. Again, 2-car driveway, 2-car garage, 2-story, you know, with an attic. Similar type product example. These are 50-foot lots, so that, you know, there's some ability to build some larger homes here. Again, just a different possible example from some of the builders that are being talked about the site with. And really, that was about it. But I'm happy to answer any questions and anything else that wanted to get discussed.
With 50-foot lots, how far are you building from the lot line?
The minimum is 5 feet that's proposed.
Okay. And Lee, maybe I ask you, I was under the impression that over 50 homes, you had to have multiple accesses. That,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
go ahead.
If you have 100 homes or more, you have to do a traffic impact analysis, and then based on the outcome of the traffic impact analysis, that determines how many access points you have to have.
So we haven't done a traffic impact analysis on this.
This one didn't trigger this one was 95 homes. That threshold was 100 homes to trigger the TIA.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We had no one to sign up to speak. I'll make the same offer. Did someone failed to sign up, if you'd like to speak now. If not, we will close the public hearing. Next, we have a public hearing on CZ 2019-009, Poplar Meadows Phase 3. We're working you tonight.
So this presentation is going to be almost identical to the Poplar Meadows Phase 2, because it is right down the street. But it's a separate application. CZ 2019-009, Poplar Meadows Phase 3. This is a request to rezone a parcel of land from RA40 to R4 conditional. The applicant does request this in order to develop a single-family attached townhome neighborhood with a maximum of 99 houses. Project does consist of open space for use by the residents of the community. The project's access will come from a full movement access point off of Bonterra Village Way. The overall density is 4.85 units per acre. Again, just keeping with that, stepping that density down from the activity center that you'll see in a second. And again, since this is a conditional rezoning request, if it's approved, the district would be bound by all the conceptual plans and conditions that are approved as part of the process. So again, Phase 3, Phase 2 is adjacent to this. Phase 1 is adjacent to that one. It's 99 units, 4.85 dwelling units per acre, one entrance point off of Bonterra Village Way. Just from conversations with the developer, I'm not sure if this has changed or not, but our last conversation, I believe these were all going to be single story. I'll let him clarify that if that's changed, but last we heard, this was all single story townhome units, and it was age targeted. Again, these are really the same pictures from the previous rezoning. It looks exactly the same. You have Bonterra Village Way looking toward the expressway, Bonterra Village Way looking toward Poplar Road, and of course, if you keep going on down further, you have Bonterra Village looking directly across the street and subject property. Again, you've seen a similar slide. The white area is unincorporated Union County, and then this kind of greenish color is the town of Indian Trail. So town is, there's a lot of Indian Trail jurisdiction in this general area. Again, you have some denser development behind this property in Bonterra Village, and to the side, that's also Bonterra Village. Everything else in this area currently is fairly low density residential. I'm sorry, before I get into that. Again, this is really kind of the same statement that you heard for Phase 2 from utilities. The properties in this area, most of them are served by Union County Water and Sewer. Some of the rural properties are served by some combination of well and septic systems. This project is proposed to be served by Union County Public Works Water and Sewer. Water and sewer can be extended from Poplar Meadows Phase 2 to serve this site. They do note that sewer from this area does drain to the Poplar Road pump station, and that pump station does have limited capacity. While there is capacity currently in that pump station, the capacity would have to be reevaluated at the time that permitting plans are submitted to the county. Again, the zoning in the area, you have some dense zoning behind and beside this property. You have SF5, which is in the town of Indian Trail, and R4 in Union County. The vast majority of everything else is either SF1 or RE40, which is SF1 is Indian Trail's equivalent, RE40 district. Just off the map here, again, down at the intersection, you have some commercial zoning down where Unionville Indian Trail Road intersects with Secret Shortcut and the expressway. No significant environmental features exist on this property. Schools, it's really the same comments you heard before. Poplar Road is projected to be at 90% of rated capacity. Porter Ridge Middle is 89%, and Porter Ridge High School is 92%. Number of planned and not built housing units in the Poplar Elementary School area are approximately 2,900, and it includes Bonterra, the unbuilt portions of Bonterra, Southgate, Secret Shortcut Development, Brayburn, Poplar Road Project, and Poplar Road property. Again, the Poplar Road property was the one that the board denied a few months ago. For the Porter Ridge attendance area, that number is approximately 4,850 units. In addition to those above, it also includes Sterling Idlewild, Willows at Stallings, Old Blair's Mill, Southstone, Courtyards at Laurie's Road, Webster Tract, Idlewild Development, Oak Springs Road, Crooked Creek Estates, Poplar Grove, Goose Creek Farm, Stratford, and Stallingsbrook. And they note that additional residential construction contributes to high enrollments, which in turn exacerbate problems such as additional mobile classrooms, inadequate capacity for food service and restroom facilities, rationing of access to the media center, insufficient parking and queuing space for parents to safely deliver or pick up their children, and inadequate planning and meeting space for additional staff. Again, same numbers, 2019 count along Bonterra Village Way is 1,300 vehicle trips a day, and along Poplar Road you have approximately 5,000 vehicle trips a day. Bonterra Village Way is shown in the future to stay a two-lane road with a paved shoulder. I'm sorry, I skipped over that slide. There's the schools that serve this area. Just talked about them, but there's Popham Elementary and then the Porter Ridge High School and Middle School. Again, our land use plan shows this area to be mixed residential, which does anticipate higher patterns of development, higher residential patterns of development with varying housing types, such as townhomes and apartments. Since this project is inside the mixed residential, townhome projects with higher densities are anticipated. And Secret Shortcut Small Area Plan, it is in that medium density pattern. Again, that's an average of 3 units. They are stepping down, moving away from the higher density townhome project here and here. This is going down to the 4 and some change units per acre. The planning board voted 4-3 to make a recommendation to approve this request. The board noted that the development was an extension of the already approved Poplar Meadows and that the lessening of density was appropriate. The board also noted that they felt that this was a good use of the property. The dissenting members noted that they felt that the density of the development was too high. It would negatively impact the schools and would negatively impact the transportation network. Staff's comments are that the comprehensive plan designates this area as mixed residential and that the plan does anticipate higher density patterns. The Secret Shortcut Small Area Plan defines that higher density to be approximately 3 units per acre across the entire category of covering the area. Staff feels that the density of this project, while higher than 3 units, is a good transition from the higher densities anticipated near the interchange. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Rushing?
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, and you've said a couple times tonight, and I want to make sure I'm clear with this. The Poplar Road pump station is nearing capacity, is that what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying? So, do we know, I mean, is this going to be like the race to see which one wins, Bonterra or this project? If there's 800 homes to be developed in there, or?
The information that I've got from Public Works is that as projects go before rezonings, we always ask our Public Works Department for input on rezonings. Some of the towns don't do that, but we ask for input on rezonings, and this is the input they give us. Of course, they can't commit to serve it, but they do say that capacity is limited and that if that they will reevaluate it. So there could be an instance where developments are approved in between, or capacity is reserved for developments in between the time this is approved and when it's, when plans come in, and there may not be capacity.
And to make capacity, we would have to upfit the pump station to pump more. Who does that? Would we do that, or do they do that?
You could upfit the pump. I believe there's a couple of interim solutions that may be out there. I don't have the full details of those. I know that one of them is basically a storage tank to pump it out at night. But yes, there would have to be some sort of solution
Honey wagons.
to provide capacity to yes.
So,
Okay.
I just want to clarify that we actually have an item that's actually within your past CIP, but nothing's actually moving forward with construction, which is an interim solution for this. Now, interim meaning that it's expected to last anywhere from 7 to 10 years, and that's what Lee was talking about, the tank. That is actually within the county's CIP if the board ever moves forward with that.
I'm just kind of struck with the comments from the planning board of the concerns of the traffic and the schools. If this is age targeted and is, which
Yeah.
it seems to be, the impact would be less there, which still could be some impact. But the traffic with the bypass located so close to it, that's what that's there for, is to handle that traffic. But no mention of the flushing of the toilets and the drinking of the water.
I won't say that there was no discussion of that. I tried to go back and listen to those minutes and sort of pick up what I felt kind of were the highlights. So there was a lot of discussion around, especially school capacity at the planning board. I won't say for sure that they did not mention the utility issues. They very well may have, but the ones that I read off were the ones that were discussed the most at the planning board.
Because I know this, every one that we've had tonight, it was traffic impact, school
Yes.
impact. It wasn't school impact on the other because the
Right.
schools were under capacity, but I just didn't know if that was a standard answer that you asked them, and I just, wondered if we even, that if they had any consideration of the utilities. So what does happen, and is there a plan to, and this is on this discussion because this is important, the 800 homes left in Bonterra to be completed?
Sure.
There's a subdivision nearby, I believe, approved by Indian Trail.
I believe so, yes,
There-
sir.
And Bonterra's in Indian Trail.
Bonterra's an Indian Trail. I think Brayburn was sort of the continuation of Bonterra Village. I think that was the name of it. There's another, I think, an age-restricted development further down Bonterra Village Way in the town of Indian Trail. There's a few more, Southgate, there's a few more developments in that general area.
So how many connections do we think we have before we run out of capacity?
I did not get that information from Public Works.
That's
Is-
correct. So, that's right, we don't actually have a physical number, because and the reason that's hard to give you is because there's a number that you have to use to factor what it is, but the actual usage actually reduces that. So when you actually put someone on the usage, their actual usage is lower than the number we have to plan for. So it sort of varies. So I can't give you an exact number. I've asked Public Works to evaluate that. I don't have that at this time, but it's a very good question. I just don't have the number for it.
And the concern, again, I think I expressed this with the other one that came up, was that, and the developer can answer to this or when they come up. What do you do? What do you do when, if it's half completed and
Right.
capacity runs out and a board of commissioners doesn't vote to do anything for 10, 15, 20 years to
Right,
upfit that pump station?
sure.
Or do we include upfit of the pump station along with the conditions of the rezoning, or like we do, if they were gonna put in water and sewer resources, like if they're gonna put in sewer pipe and water lines, is there a, who, are the ratepayers gonna be paying for the upfit of the pump station, or are the people building the houses gonna be required? Because if I build a home on R40, I'm gonna have to dig a septic tank and a well.
Right.
Um,
I imagine that any conditions could be discussed. I'm not sure a condition, how that would play out with contribution to a CIP, but
Yeah. Because, again, it would be our decision to upfit or expand that pump station. And it's been on the plan for how many years?
I can't answer how many years, but it's been on there for some time.
Yeah. So rezoning this property doesn't guarantee that these houses will ever be built.
That's correct.
That is correct.
And developers know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lee. You want, the developer want to speak?
Hello again. I'll be brief. We already covered a lot of this, but, you know, just again, this is 99 senior age targeted units. These are the one or 1.5 story, depending on the buyer's option. You know, with that upstairs room being either a guest bedroom or rec room or things like that. These are all either 30 or 35 foot wide units, so they're a little bit bigger than the homes in phase 2, which is partly why there's a little bit less density over here, in addition to the fact that it's a bigger piece of land. Again, just reference to the other 2 phases, approved and under consideration. A lot of this you've already seen, so I'm just clicking through it. You know, real differences here are, you know, this is a new access point to Bonterra Village Way, so NCDOT, while they did not require a traffic study and the county did not require a traffic study, NCDOT did require that we build a left turn lane into the site, which we'll, you know, submit the permits for, assuming that this is voted favorably. There weren't any other off-site improvements noted by DOT that are assumed to be built by others. And I bring that up because of the intersection of Poplar Road and Bonterra Village Way here. This is obviously while it was under construction, the realignment of that intersection there, you know, it does this today. But DOT asked us to put this here to try to make that left turn lane, 1, function, and 2, to, you know, really keep any impacts to this intersection to a minimum. You know, the further we push this away from that, the less it's going to impact it. This was the collector street section that DOT had requested on this, and so it was a separate connection. It's not physically connected to phase 2, really just simply because of the fact that there's a strip of land here owned by the Bonterra HOA, and it was just not an option to connect through there. And so this was a wider street section it's 30 feet from edge of pavement to edge of pavement to give more room, you know, to still get emergency vehicles by while there's on-street parking. And that's also part of the reason why there was no parking lot on this phase that was dedicated off-street, because of that ability for more on-street parking. Same exact discussion with the fire marshal and EMS. These were all NCDOT standard roads, and neither one of those groups had any concerns with the development as proposed. You know, like Lee said, this is stepping down from the 9 units an acre in phase 1 to 6 units an acre in phase 2, and to between 4.5 and 5 units per acre in phase 3. Again, just trying to transition away from the interchange. That slide did not work. You know, again, this site is about 45% open space as it comes to the site, which is significantly more than phase 1 and slightly more than phase 2. Again, really trying to preserve some wetlands and some open spaces that are around the perimeter of the site. Really the same exact set of age-targeted features that are being proposed both in the homes and in the neighborhoods, so I won't read all through this again. Again, senior age targeted, so while there is the potential that there may be, you know, 1 or 2 families in the neighborhood that may have school-age children, this is not going to be a traditional neighborhood in terms of the number of children that are impacting the school system. Again, the building elevations. Similar product to the 1.5 story in phase 2 that's proposed. And then really the last thing I just wanted to touch on before I took any questions was on the Union County, the sewer concern. You know, I guess the best way to say it is a lot of those system capacity fees that are due at the time where you're going to go and record a plat for these lots. One, it protects the potential homeowner. You know, you're never going to get into a situation where there's a home lot that's sold or under construction and there's not capacity, because at that point where the plat's recorded, that capacity is reserved on paper to what Lee mentioned, and that's held on paper and for a certain period of time. So, you know, there's, the risk is, I think to your point, on the developer and not any, you know, citizen of the county. And two, at that point, you know, there's either a known capacity or not. So, you know, it's not going to be mid-construction or anything like that when this kind of an issue would pop up. It would be a, you know, be a go, no-go kind of situation at the beginning of the construction. And, you know, those system fees, you know, I forget if the number's around $5,000 a lot or something to that effect of the system, you know, system availability fees. Those fees are really what's driving a lot of the ability then to continue to make system improvements. Certainly there's other means for that, but, you know, that development, that plat being recorded is then generating, you know, for a neighborhood this size, maybe $500,000 worth of infrastructure, you know, fees that are being paid back to Union County Public Works to go towards other system improvements. So just, you know, just some thought from the developer standpoint of, you know, that they see that as their ability to continue growth forward by being able to, by paying those fees at the time of platting the lots and creating more opportunities in the future. And I'm happy to take any other questions.
And,
Commissioner Richardson?
and I, you know, I understand that completely. I just, I guess, and this would be a question for staff maybe, is the property taxes that would be paid on that. If it were rezoned, the property value is going to go up tremendously. Is the developer responsible for those? How does that work? Was there some legislation passed? I know there was something proposed about not paying the taxes or deferring the taxes, or.
I don't see Van here, so I'll do my
Tax man
best to
didn't
answer
come?
that question. My best. So the way I understand the way the property tax works is that there are provisions that the developers does not have to pay the value of construction until the home is actually built, and then there's a period of time which that's listed, and then you actually start paying the value of the home and the lot. So they get a discount while it's under construction. That's my understanding of how that works. And that's only been recently that it's gone into effect. And so the builders and developers do get quite a good discount of not having to pay that property tax until the home's actually constructed, it's ready to be lived in, and then there's a period at which it actually goes on the books.
Okay, so they wouldn't be stuck with, if we didn't do something with that Poplin Road station for years.
That's correct.
They wouldn't be stuck with the burden of higher property taxes.
Correct.
for
Now, the
November.
value of the property might change, value of the land itself, and obviously they have to pay
they would
more
pay it on the land.
value of the land, but like as far as improvements to the property, that doesn't get factored into it till actually the home is constructed, it's ready to be lived in.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Similar to the other projects I was presenting, if there was a potential for a vote tonight, we would appreciate that consideration. Thank you.
We've had one young lady sign up to speak, Bonnie Johnson.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie Johnson. I am a resident of Union County. I live in the Wesley Oaks division or subdivision. I'm a member of the board of directors for that HOA. And actually, I'm here to express my concern about not just any particular development, but all of these applications to change from R40 to R4 will have an impact not just on those particular areas, but on every resident of this county. Where's the water coming from? We have limited water. We already pay a 3-tier system to encourage us to conserve our water, to restrict our use of water. I have never paid higher water bills, and I lived in the Washington, D.C. area. And the water bills here are crazy compared to what I paid in that area. I just don't understand. And as far as senior targeted, I submit that seniors will be flushing their toilets a heck of a lot more than the younger folks, from experience. It's just a fact of life.
I agree with you.
But seriously, I mean, where is this capacity going to come from? Who's going to pay for it? Is it going to be your constituents paying for it? So I urge you to carefully consider and weigh what our future of Union County is going to look like with R4 housing, with medium and high-density housing throughout the county. The way of life, a lot of you are natives to this county, and I know a lot of the natives resent the newcomers, and I don't blame them. I understand that. But your whole way of life has changed already, and what's it going to be like 5 years down the road? So I'm just asking you to please consider and weigh those issues carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. No one else has signed up to speak, so we'll close the public hearing. Next, we have informal comments, and Mr. Everett signed up on that. Is he still here? He was a Bonterra HOA, if I recall. Huh. He's left? Okay. Well, if there's no one else signed up, we'll move on. Next, we have additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda. And I would like to add item 27, which is the text amendment that we spoke earlier. And I'd also add item 28, a closed session for the board. Any further? Any discussion?
Motion to approve is amended.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda, approve? Aye. Okay, thank you. We have no old business this evening. Item 24, the annual report of the Monroe Union County Economic Development for 2019. Chris, you were hiding over there.
I was hiding. Chairman Helms, Commissioners, Manager Watson, it's my pleasure to present to you the annual fiscal year-end report for the Monroe Union County Economic Development. That's again from July of 2018 to June 2019. As part of the interlocal agreement with the City of Monroe, our office is supposed to be giving and providing periodic updates to you, and so as well as to the City of Monroe. And so that's what tonight is. I want to start out that fiscal year 2019 was a great year for more than one reason. So the economic development activity was pretty good too. So if you look at, by all measures, we've had a tremendously successful year for the county's economic development efforts. Just going through some of the milestones, Smart Asset listed us as the 10th highest in total incoming investment county in the state. We had generated $277 million of capital investment. That's 462% of our annual goal. That was spread over 11 projects, 4 of those being manufacturing, 4 ag, 2 logistics, and 1 commercial. Created jobs, 215 were announced. Again, those are announced and those are obligated within the contracts for incentives and things of that nature, so the actual investment, or excuse me, job creation is much higher. The unemployment rate ended the year in June at 3.9%. And so with that, we've maintained the lowest or one of the lowest unemployment rates in the Charlotte region for 20 straight years. If you look at I'm over my time. We've crossed over the $1 billion mark in aerospace investment, which is pretty incredible for a community of our size without, until recently, a road that you couldn't drive over 55. We've purchased 330 acres for the first Union County developed industrial park. Exceeded 125,000 people now in our civilian labor force. The average hourly wage last year increased $3 per hour in the manufacturing sector. Not supervisory, not managerial. This is the hourly worker. And as a result, when you combine everybody, it well exceeds all other businesses, but just the manufacturing wage is right now at $21.57. It's probably a little bit higher than that right now, so we tie or exceed wages for all businesses combined. So it is a definite career in manufacturing. And then we also fully activated our 501c3. So now we have what we call the Union County Economic Development Growth Enterprise, or EDGE, and that is there to help support us in activities outside of the traditional government way. If you look at it as of today, the most recent numbers is the civilian labor force is 126,422 people. Within the last 12 months, that has increased 4,500 people. So that we are one of the top growing counties still as a result of this. But kind of going back and looking at from the time that the interlocal agreement was started in January of 13, we've had 21,000 additional people just come into the labor force. That's not population, that's the labor force. And so when you look at the unemployment dropping from 7.9% at that time to 3.9% today, and with that growth, there's roughly 25,000 people more people in this county with a job than they had in January of 13. So we're extremely proud of that. You can see here where we rank in the Charlotte region. York County really is the only contemporary county that we compare with. Everybody else, we are lower. So when we go out, we cannot sell Union County from our desk, so we must go out and try to find those projects. So looking at this year, we were on the road a good bit. We were in Alabama, California, Nevada, and had several opportunities in North Carolina, which was nice to stay home. And then we also went to London and Paris, both for air shows that were within this fiscal year. Looking out into next year, we've got our slate starting to fill up now with California, Illinois, New York, Washington, Oregon, as well as hitting up Montreal, the UK, and Europe. So all that traveling is there to develop the pipeline, to fill the pipeline of projects that are here. We hit 93% of that goal with 67 projects of the 72 was our goal. You can see there the makeup of those projects, how we categorize them. So 66% of them being precision manufacturing, agribusiness, again, holds the second spot consistently year after year. Logistics should increase as the expressway becomes a viable asset for us to develop distribution and other things along that routeway. And then commercial really is, we will always sort of lag behind that until we have a little bit more participation with the western side of the county. Product development, we have been extremely fortunate this year. It's been a big driver to make sure that we have product for the investments that are coming in. City of Monroe purchased 155 acres to build its third park. Again, as I mentioned, Union County's built its first park with 330 acres, as well as we're trying to find innovative ways to work with some of the other towns that can't necessarily afford to build a building like Monroe can. So we're trying to come up with a virtual building. We've targeted Waxhaw as the first place to try to find an opportunity there to go through the permitting process, everything else, and eliminate some time so that if someone's interested, they can just sort of grab the permit and go. Existing industry, it's where my career started. Ron Mail, the assistant director, is where his career started up in Ohio. It is the anchor of our office. Take care of those that you have first before bringing others in. And so existing industries nationwide represents about 80% of all the investment and job creation anyways. The easier sell, it's less expensive to focus on that, and we do a very good job of that. The existing industry direct interactions where Ron is meeting with those people on a day-to-day basis. He's had 111 of those throughout the year. We have grants and rebates that we find for the projects, or for these companies, for lighting rebates, other energy efficiency programs. We had $101,000 issued out, which generated another $700,000 of investment from those projects. And then we had several events, seminars, industry appreciation of the things in which we've had 200 plus people that we were able to interact with as well, dedicated existing industry folks. Economic development is no different than any other business, but we have to go out and change the way we attack things. So we're a marketing entity, so we have to go through social media, away from print and other things. And so We are a smaller entity, not necessarily a large thing that people want to attach themselves to or to follow on a regular basis, but given that, we are very happy with the growth that we've seen. The website's brand new this year as well. We've seen a growth both on the average time and the returning users, as well as 12,000 page views, really focused on the available properties and other things about our county. Social media, specifically within Facebook, we have been pushing for years with the Unitas campaign, which is our little version of Flat Stanley, the children's book character, going out and trying to expose people to all the great things that are made here in Union County. That launched our Facebook several years ago to new higher standards, and so that continues to grow. So just within this year, we had almost 34% growth in the fan and followers. And then when you combine Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, what we have done this year with the videos, that's the newest edition that y'all have seen, and we appreciate that being pushed out, is the videos really give us an opportunity to talk to the business side. So it's really not targeted as much internally to Union County, but more to the Ally Network developers to let them know what's going on and opportunities here. And so with that, LinkedIn has been the one that has taken off for us with the new videos, and that's over a 60% increase in net new followers, but the engagements are off the chart. And so we're really happy with the way the social media is going as well. So given that, we are very, very fortunate and blessed to represent this county, and appreciate y'all's support this year.
Okay. Any questions for Chris?
I have a comment. I watched your presentation actually yesterday afternoon on Facebook, and the biggest takeaway I had from it was you were complaining about having to walk so much in Paris. So I think I've found some volunteers that'll go next time.
There you go. There you go. The other thing, I got to work on powder on the head, I think.
And that 274% over goal,
Yep, 462% over goal.
well, that's the new goal.
I
now.
know, yeah.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Chris. And you might as well just stay, you got the next one. Item number 25, approve an official name for our new industrial park.
Thank you very much. Yes, again, with the new addition of the asset of the industrial park, one thing that now comes with that is selling it. And so we need to be able to market that park, and one of the best ways to differentiate it from other parks that are out there, both in the region and the state and other states, is a name. And so we went through several efforts, went and polled many stakeholders. We went to the Economic Development Board of Advisors and Commissioner Akmus's recommendation to go out to Facebook. We also did that and pulled together a list. That list was then vetted through the EDC to bring back to you as suggestions. We had several names, so all the names that had probably the socially unacceptable terms or any derivative of Clemson or Tiger were wiped out. And so the two that emerged were Piedmont Innovation Park and Union County Industrial Park. And so they were virtually neck and neck. It was one vote for Piedmont over Union County. So we want to bring that to you as the two to consider, but it's obviously your choice on what to name this park going forward. So we wanted to put that to you, that it's been vetted and brought to you, but wanted to make sure that we got some recommendations so we can start marketing that property.
Okay. Discussion? As a Piedmont High grad, I better vote for Piedmont.
Chris, what do you think?
Either one is fine. Typically, you would see the first park to be named after the county. So like Monroe, built the Monroe Corporate Center was the first one. After that, it starts to deviate. So either one, it works for us. The Union County Industrial Park's obviously an easy choice. The Piedmont Innovation Park definitely gives it a little bit different feel to it. And the activities right now that, at least the first tenant that'll be going in there with ATI, definitely has innovation in everything that they do.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Simpson.
I would hope that a county as progressive and as positive as Union County would have a name that
matched it, so, or an industrial park that matched that. So I would move that we select the name Piedmont Innovation Park for our new industrial park.
Okay. Any further discussions? Okay, we have a motion to name it Piedmont Innovation Park. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
You
very
have a
much.
name, you can start
I have a
marketing.
name. I better start selling.
I'll see it on MLS tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next, we have appointments to boards and committees. The Workforce Development Board has 2 vacancies, one for an adult education and literacy representative and one for private sector representative. The terms of these 2 appointments expired on June 30th, 2019, and both vacancies have been advertised. Kyle Minor served as the adult education and literacy representative but does not wish to be reappointed. Centralina received a nomination for Kelly Stegall to fill this vacancy. Ms. Stegall has submitted an application. No other applications were received.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would make a motion that we appoint Ms. Stegall as that, in that position, and make a motion that we appoint Richard Witterstatter to fill the vacancy for private sector representative.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Frank didn't want to hear me read that. Okay, item 27 goes back to our text amendment we heard earlier. And on the text amendment, we had 3 items. Do we have a motion or discussion?
I'll make the motion to approve it, and I apologize to Mr. Crook. I'm still going through on the job training. I'll try to get my protocol better, but thank you for.
Okay. Do we have someone for each one? Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve and then also approve the amendments in the consistency statement. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Our next item is, do you have the, did you give me the statement to go to closed session? Wait a minute, maybe I got it here. Next, I move the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege in accordance with GS 143-318-11A3, and to establish or instruct the public body staff or negotiation agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price or other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property in accordance with GS 143-318-11A5 in connection with a portion of property owned by the Union County Board of Education described by deed recorded in Book 5462, page 118 of the Union County Registry, tax map 06159-010A for the possible use as a Union County public library. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd ask that the board reconvene our regular session, and in our discussion on the library, I want to make a motion to request that the Union County Board of Education add the county's request for conveyance of the 16 acres unused property at Cupperson for the construction of a public library, and to direct their staff to coordinate with the county staff to develop an interlocal agreement for joint use. We would ask that this be added for their meeting of August 6th for an action item to tell us their intents. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Okay. I was about ready to say let's quit, but we've got county manager's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make you aware, and the members of the public aware, that the 2019 Union County Public Works Drinking Water Quality Report is available. That's available on the Union County website under Public Works, and under the Water tab. You can click on the link. It's a nice graphic there. And you can see the report on the quality of our drinking water. This report includes a report about the water supply, the source water assessment, how the water is treated. It goes through that whole process. It defines water quality terms, which are really important to understand when you're talking about water quality. And it provides the test results for both our Catawba and Anson water supply. So anyone that's interested in the quality of our water sources and that we're providing, that material is on our website. And as a side note, I believe all of these water quality reports going back through 2009 are on the same page. So you can go back and look at the history of that. Second item, it's not too soon to bring this to your attention, and ask you to please add it to your calendar and make folks aware that Farm City Week 2019 is coming up. This will be in September. It starts September the 14th with the harvest celebration at the farmers market. Then on the 17th, there is a farm tour. Highly recommended, if you've never been on that before, to take the farm tour. On the 19th is the Farm City Banquet at the Ag Center. On the 20th is the 4-H Livestock Show. And the 21st is a 4-H Expo and Extension Master Gardeners Heritage Festival. And that event continues to grow year after year. But I bring that to your attention. That is our annual celebration of the role of agriculture in our community. Please add it to your calendar for the month of September as you're making your plans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Akmus.
I have no comments, thank you.
Commissioner Rushing.
No comment.
Commissioner Simpson.
None this evening.
I would
Commissioner
like to thank Commissioner Akmus for giving me some advice last week. Never pass up the opportunity to not say nothing. That's all I want to say.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.